Hey everyone, so today I'm going to be talking about Rift of Chaos dungeons. I know I've had a couple of videos about these already, but there's maybe 4 or 5. It was about mechanics, heroes that I thought were going to be good, and things like that from speculation, and then, these dungeons have been out now for a week, so I figured I could, talk about them a little bit. So one of the reasons I'm making this is because they did do an update for these Rift of Chaos dungeons. They were supposed to nerf them, right? And in the update notice, you see that it says it lowers the difficulty of stages 1 to 3 in Rift of Chaos. And then another thing that they did was they increased the drop rate of relic charms in Rift of Chaos. So this is actually a good fix, number 3. Number 2 is garbage. But number 3 is actually pretty good. And I know why they're doing this. And I'll get into that in a second. But, the community's been asking for this to be scaled down. And whenever their solution is to scale down stages 1 through 3 and not the entirety of Rift of Chaos, it's so frustrating from a player perspective to see stuff like this happen. It's just, I don't understand how they can't just scale it down 10% or something like that, right? And see how far people progress. I understand that they don't want people to finish this content, really quickly because it's the big new, brand new content for Ace, right? But something that I don't even know if the developers realize is getting to stage 12 is one thing, but then apparently there's even more stages after that. Like, we can't even fathom beating stage 5. And for some reason, they're so afraid of us getting to stage 12. But that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to talk about the issues with Rift of Chaos dungeons, why they don't work after I've played them enough and I've come to some conclusions. And I want to send this off to, Ace and Boolin and see if they actually send it to the developers. I'll need, everyone's help, posting comments, things like that. If you agree, get the views up on this video to show that it's something that you guys agree with. Making posts in the Discord and things like that, all of those things matter, for sure. I think sometimes posts get a little lost in translation, especially whenever so many people are complaining about it. That's why I wanted to do it kind of in a video form. But anyway, so let's talk about this a little bit, right? The first issue with Rift of Chaos is obviously all of these bosses are just scaled way too much. Their HP, their attack, their defense. And the issue with something like that is you don't even worry about mechanics then. Like, if somebody is so strong where it's killing anything that isn't, in the case of, this Earth boss, if you bring in anybody that is not fire, they're going to be dying extremely quickly. So you are very limited on who you can use. So the mechanics are so limited because of how strong these bosses are, right? Like for my stage 4 team, if I don't bring in Brand or Zitlin or Flarence, my team isn't lasting past round 2, So screw the mechanics of what this Earth boss does. If you don't have specific heroes, you can't survive anyway to even get to the mechanics. So that's the first thing. That's dumb on its own right. The second thing that I've also really come to hate about these bosses is this dumb bomb. Okay? This also really limits teams because, like, in each element, there's only a handful. I think like 4 or 5 heroes within each element that do this cleansing, right? Like, fire has Brand, and then Earth has Jocasta, which is a different rant for an entire different video because she actually hurts your team when it comes to the stun bomb, unless she's booked, Of course, that's the solution. And then Water has Blackhorn, right? But if you don't have those heroes, you can't deal with this stun bomb, right? And the solution, and we've seen some of these heroes already in the game, is there are heroes that cleanse themselves, right? They can remove a debuff from themselves. And I think that's what the developers were maybe going for, but it goes back to the bosses completely being overtuned to where the mechanics don't even matter. It's like you either have to build a team that does so much damage in a short amount of time to kill the boss before these stun bombs even matter, which is really, really hard. It's not easy. You need some kind of cheese comp or Zitlin. You know, it's like a Zitlin, Shane Flarence, and one person that you hope can get a lucky proc and then do 5 times damage, you know, a.k.a. Levi, right? Like, how is that fun content? It's the same thing over and over, and you can't beat it otherwise. So, I honestly believe that if they were to remove this stun bomb, if they wanted to keep it on one of the heroes or whatever, bosses, then that'd be okay. But having this be like content wide between all elements is just so dumb. It's a lazy development. They haven't thought anything through here. They're just like, oh, let's have 1 or 2 unique things about these bosses and then just jam this stuff in there where all 3 of them have this same kind of thing, you know? Like, the counterattack's fine, but they all do this huge damage. Like, they do 1 or 2 things that are unique. So, being overtuned is the first thing, and then this stun bomb is the second thing, right? You're very limited on what you can do because you have to survive, right? So you can't just bring in a bunch of damage dealers that cleanse themselves because they'll get one shot. You need someone to keep them alive. But the person who's keeping them alive must be able to cleanse because you only have a certain amount of heroes that you can bring into your team to do enough damage because, of course, they gain even more damage. Like, you can't go with a tank strategy or you're going to die. So you're just so limited in your team composition. It needs to be 1 or 2 support heroes. That support hero better cleanse. It better give you more damage. It better heal you. And then you have to have the right damage dealers. They must be booked. They must have the best stats, or you're not completing stage 4. And then stage 5 is a whole different animal. You know? It's like if these stages weren't hard enough, then they add in this additional thing. That's another bullcrap thing. Then, on top of that, as if that wasn't bad enough, then they start releasing heroes like this guy, who is a good hero, and he's viable in, PvP content as well. He also unlocks some cool things with bleeding teams and stuff like that. Like, this hero isn't the problem. It's just, of course, they tailor the Rift of Chaos boss, the water boss, to be really, really weak against this hero, Hyunwoo, right? In the limited summons. They also did the same thing with what's her name here, if I can find her. She's right, Muriel, right? It's like, oh, also if you don't have enough buffs, you can just pull for Muriel, right? And she's the option. But if you don't have either of those heroes, then you're SOL, right? Now the community has thankfully thought of some decent comps, right? To be able to farm some of these relics. And the reason why they reduced the difficulty of these stages is because their thinking is these relics are going to give you enough sustain, they're going to give you enough unique kind of substats that you'll be able to scale with these bosses. But man, whatever they think that these relics do, I need to hear from a developer that says, yeah, you guys are being idiots. Just take a look at this relic. This is like, I don't know how the community worldwide couldn't figure this out, right? But if you, like, look at this relic, okay? I know it's only +3, but 12%, right? 12% defense, and then dealing bonus damage equal to 3% of your defense. Damage received from water heroes is 1%. 1%. These bosses, they do like 20. I think my Gangello, like let's just take Gangello for example. Let's just go into a Rift of Chaos water match. Gangello takes, I think, 16,000 damage. $16,000 damage from this like huge single target max health hit, which we'll see I think right here. Oh, it's on the next one. Okay, so right there, that was 3,400. This is stage 3, mind you. $3,300, and he's got 295,000 health. So here you go. 19,000. And then true damage of 4,000. And then the developers are like, oh, well, how about that relic that reduces damage by 1% for water heroes, against water heroes? I just don't see how that scales. What the heck can that roll to? You know, we need more information. That's the other thing that has been frustrating about this whole thing, is they're just like, hey, there's this new content. It's called Rift of Chaos, and we're gonna release these cool artifacts that give your people boosts, and it's gonna change up the game a little bit. It's like, okay, that's awesome. Oh, by the way, here's the bosses, and that's it. Well, how do you beat this? Oh, get the relics. Okay. So after I get the relics, then I'll be able to scale with the game? Yeah. Well, how far? Well, it might take some books, might take some relics. Yeah, but how long is that going to take? Oh, I don't know. Okay, great. Have you guys tested this? Have you proofed this out? Because this is honestly one of the most annoying, lamest pieces of content I've seen in one of these gacha games. It's so dull. There's no variation in teams. It's a real bummer, On top of that, they also have it locked behind these dungeons. Like, I understand what they're thinking here. It's like, well, if you guys can't beat stage 16 on the dungeons, then you're really going to struggle here. And I get that. But maybe reducing this down to 14 so someone can do stage 1 maybe is possible, and then these relics actually help them, progress in these dungeons would be a nice move. Yeah, I just don't know. I know what they were thinking with reducing this difficulty. They're literally just saying, hey, we're going to increase the drop rate of these charms. You're going to be able to farm stages 1 to 3 pretty easily, and then you'll upgrade your charms. And then you'll be able to farm this. But I still don't see how this scales. I honestly don't. I've seen so many whales trying to beat this content on stage 5 with like crazy teams, crazy heroes. This is the only team that's working right now because it's a cheese team, right? But teams on Team 4, I'll show you. Like this team, right? This team right here has the 2 meta heroes. And it's full damage. This team cannot beat stage 5. Like, full books on this guy, Hyunwoo. I wouldn't be surprised if Rachel is booked or whatever. But these teams can't beat stage 5. And they're fully booked heroes. So, what that comes down to is the relics are supposed to then push you up into the next stage. I just don't understand it. And that's with the meta heroes, So that's what they're thinking. But I don't see it happening. And on top of that, I don't think anybody's actually even understood what they did to lower the difficulty of these stages. I don't think anyone knows. I haven't seen a difference, to be honest. I don't know what changed. But this whole thing's a joke. And people are upset. I'm also upset and annoyed. You know, I don't understand why they won't make it fun. You know, there's no variance in team composition. It is one way to progress, and that's it. Book that specific hero, and that's it. If you don't have this other hero, you can't progress. So it's really dumb, stupid content. I think they should literally just throw it in the trash can. It's not fun. It's not enjoyable. So that's my issue with this stuff, guys. I'm sure most of you feel the same way. I haven't seen any person, not one, say that they like this content. I think when it first came out, there were a couple people like, oh, harder content's good. It's nice to have a challenge. And that's true. That is true. But once you get gated like this, right, where you have no information from the developers, no information from the community managers on, an example of a developer showing how they progressed, what kind of substats are important on the artifacts. Like I've seen the good substats on the artifacts, and I just don't see how it scales. But I would love to have a developer show that. I'd love to look like an idiot on this, to be honest. But yeah, after a week, those same people that were saying that they enjoyed the harder content are just like, guys, this really needs to scale down. So that's it. That's all I got for you. A rant. It's my first one, which is annoying. I really don't like doing stuff like that, but that's my take on it. I hope the developers see this. I don't know if anybody watches these videos, but that's what I got for you today. Bonus video. I have a inspiring Ace is cool video about Desdemona. Not really. I was kind of crapping on it then too, but yeah. And now Rift of Chaos, guys. That's it. I'll see you later.